Welcome to Powerful Women Off the Record, where real women talk about what it takes to remain authentic while leading in a complex world. I'm your host, Elizabeth Veely. Today, I'm joined by Caroline Organ, Chief Human Resource Officer at Brock Schechter Polakoff LLP, a large CPA firm serving clients across New York State and Ontario, Canada. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Okay, excellent. So, Caroline, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me. So, as I mentioned, and you and I already talked a little bit, I am just finding my women that I know that just are highly impactful and have been making it happen for quite a while, juggling both, some sort of whether it's a leadership position or, corporate position, or it's a position that creates impact, whatever that is, and God knows that, like, what you do, in your company is huge. We were talking about the corporate culture and how important it is, and that I think it starts with you. So we talk a lot about business and we talk a lot about what we do for work, but I really want to talk about what we're doing behind the scenes to, be able to keep that fire going and keep that power, I guess, flame going. And sometimes I think it goes down to a flicker, but then we get it back up and everything. So I have a couple questions that I just wanted to ask you about, and then we'll just kind of like freeform. But so tell me about a time when you knew you had to make a change. Could have been in work, in life, it could have been whatever, but you started feeling the drain, like you started getting the heads up, like something's not in alignment.
That's a good question. Okay, let me think. So a specific time where I felt like I had to make a change. I think, let me think about that.
And how does it show up for you? Like what do you feel, something in your body, or like something starts shifting and you're like, "Oh, I don't know, something's not right here."
Yeah, no, that actually helps a little bit. So I think, for me, as we talked about, I think that there is a lot of pressure on, women, especially moms who work and are mothers, right? And there is this pressure where it's, you know, you're working full time, you want to be the best that you can at your job. People almost expect that, right? They expect this high performance, but then they also expect you to be this amazing mom, right? They can get your, like we talked about, can get your kids where they need to go, where they need to be. And I think it is a lot of pressure on moms to be able to kind of do it all. And I think that for me, we mentioned I have 4 children and who I love very much, and I have a career, full-time career that I also love very much, right? I would never want to give up on either of those. But I think for me, especially after I had my fourth child, I was involved in, some organizations, some activities that I felt like, what, this might not be maybe the best alignment for me right at this time, right? I have 4 children I'm taking care of. I have a career. I need to make sure that I'm focused on things that really help me personally as well, just be a better person, right? Whether it's mom or whether it's in the professional setting. So I think at that point in my career is probably when I reevaluated a little bit of what I'm involved in, what makes sense for me going forward. I did take a step back from a few things that I was, working on, some organizations that I was involved in, and then took a step back, kind of reevaluated what makes sense to me. And then I would say a few years later, kind of got involved more so in on the PTA, the schools, things like that where my kids are involved. So just this past year, I actually became the treasurer of the PTA and I think that to me was maybe like a little bit better of a fit for where I'm at, right now in my life. And I also think at that same point, I had to make a little bit more time for me personally, if that makes sense. I did sort of feel like, again, I've had this professional career, which I love. I'm a mom, but like I need to make sure I'm making time for myself too, right? So that I can, I'm not a good mom if I'm not taking care of myself first. And so I did make sure that I like to walk. So, I like to go out, even if it's just, after the kids go to bed, on a nice night and take a walk around the neighborhood, listen to music, kind of recharge a little bit. I have found that tends to help me. I actually also downloaded this app called Better Me. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it, yeah.
Okay. And so it's funny, probably this was recent. This was in the last 6 months. I started doing calisthenics, which is kind of funny because I feel like I told one of my girlfriends and she said, you mean like calisthenics, like what people used to do 20 years ago? And I was like, I guess so. Is that what it is? I double checked and I was like, yes, but and it's an app and you can use it and you can do anywhere from, I think it's like 12 minutes a day is typically what my average is, to be honest with you. You can do up to 30 if you want. I actually just recently downloaded a new part of the app to do, it's called like wall Pilates. But what I like about it is 12 minutes a day, I feel mentally I can handle, right? I don't feel like right now I have the time or even like the capacity to belong to a gym, right? I mean, pre-kids, I used to get up and go to the BAC women's and go to a boot camp every morning. And that was great for me. And hopefully someday I can get back to that. But right now, that's just not going to work in my schedule, right? So I have to find little things that I think I can do for myself to not lose myself, I guess, and everything else I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, no, it totally does. And like, and it's like fitting it in, right? Because, and
100%.
it's the shift in life, I think, where like before you have kids, you have a rhythm, you have a system, you know how to maintain your energy. The kids come and everything shifts, right? And like you said, you used to be an AM like workout person. That is really hard to do with kids. And I'm not saying people aren't doing it, but you know, it's kind of cool that you kind of step back and you're like, maybe that's more of an evening walk now, like the kids are in bed but that there may be a time delay before you figure that out, right? And you're still trying to like do your old way and it's not working. It's actually causing more stress, or whatever, and then finding it at the evening. I think it's so funny you mentioned first off Better Me because I looked into that too, but calisthenics, there's something to this because I'll get like that too. Or like I'll be walking and then all of a sudden I'll just start walking backwards. Or I'll be doing like the grapevine. Or I'll be like, the other day I found myself like, I think I might start skipping. And it was like so weird of what but my body kind of just wanted to move something. I think it was like trying to move something out. And who knows if it's just triggering something when we were kids? Like, I don't know.
I don't know, and it's funny, but the best part about it is I don't need anything to do it other than my phone, right? And I think that that's what's so nice. I think again at this point in my career and my my home life, it's what can I do that's going to fit in and going to be easy, and also but not overwhelm me or cause me more stress, right? If that makes sense, it's like
Yes.
something that I'm going to be able to handle and just mentally make sense for me, and that's why I think there's something about that like 12 to 15 minutes a day I feel I can do this, right? Or go out for a 20 to 30-minute walk. But if you told me, you've got to exercise 45 minutes every single day, you got to hit, these steps, these metrics, that's sort of hard for me right now. I need to find things
Yeah.
just, work for me. And like I said, with the calisthenics, like there really isn't, it's just, moving your body, right? To work out
Yeah.
and to grow muscle and to get stronger. And that's what I think is really cool about it. And I'll tell you, it's a pretty good workout. I mean, it definitely helps. So I'm excited to try this. Like I said, it's called wall Pilates and I just downloaded it. I'm hoping to actually start it this week. But I think, everything kind of runs its course after a while too, right? And I think one thing I've learned, especially with being a mom, is that it's okay to make changes and you don't have to always do the same thing, if that makes sense, right? Where it's like, okay, well, maybe I've done this for a couple months, maybe I'm getting a little bored of it or plateauing, so maybe we try something else. And I think I've gotten a lot better at that in my life, especially having kids. I mean, I'm
Yes.
such a, I'm so organized, I'm so structured. Having my first baby really threw me for a loop because all of a sudden, like,
Same.
I mean, I was so used to almost every night I had a networking event, right? Or I mean, I love my job. I love where I work. I would stay there until, you know what I mean, until 5, 6 at night. Have no, no issues with it at all. But once you all of a sudden have this baby counting on you, like you have to get them from daycare, or you have to get them from your parents' house, right? I think it really forces you to be able to, I guess, adapt to change a little bit, which is something that I wasn't great at before. But now, especially after the 4 kids, right? I mean, it's just you realize, like, hey, if you have to leave work early to go, go to a baseball game, you don't want to miss these things with your children, right? But then, after they go to bed, I log in and wrap up my day. Like that's great for me, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like though having a firm to work for that allows you that flexibility
Yes.
to do that, like, you can't put a price on that. You really can't. And again, that's one of the reasons why I've been with the firm for 18 years is because of how,
Yeah.
how flexible they are with me, how they, they treat me. They know I'm a professional, they know I'm going to get things done. And I never felt, again, since, so I've been with the firm for 18 years. I've had, my oldest is 11. So, in these 11 and a half years, I've never felt like I have to choose, if that makes sense. I've always felt like I don't have to miss out on my kids' activities, the things I want to do with them, and then also not be able to have my career as well. So I just feel really fortunate to be in the situation I'm at and able to balance both.
Yeah, and if more companies could figure that out, because like you said, the balance is like you can go to that event for your child, but you're going to log in that night. In this day and age, right? You're going to get your work done. It might just be at a different time, and to make that work is massive. And then look at the benefits. Like you're there 18 years. Like there it's priceless on both fronts. And I am so with you on like the parenting and work, because I think a lot of times what can start diminishing your fire and your flame is when that balance is off and you feel like you're failing your kids or you're failing your company, and it just nags at you, right? Because it's very hard just to stuff that away. And so having that flexibility to adjust in the moment, like you said, like before you had the kids, and I was way more rigid before I had my kids. And then yes, you like I had twins, and I was like world upside down.
And there's right? Like a baby schedule is not what I had thought it was going to be honest with you.
Yes,
Like you said, it throws
yes,
you for a loop, especially when you have the personality that I do, anyways, right? And kind of have my day planned out, and here's what I'm going to get done, and it just doesn't happen anymore, Or even now, right? You can still have your weekday kind of planned out. Then all of a sudden, when your children's sick, what do you do, right?
right.
Like if my husband can't get them, and you know what I mean, I have to get them, type of thing, or stay home with them. I mean, I think that you just can't put a price on that flexibility where, okay, well, I can work from home, or I can make that important meeting that I had while my child's home and still be able to take care of them, right? Or I can take
Yeah,
care off and not worry about, I often think about women, and I really feel for them where it's, if they miss work, they have that fear that they're going to lose their job, right? I'm choosing between my ill child and my work. And I've never had to have that feeling. And again, I just
yeah,
truly, truly just appreciate that I haven't, had to have that feeling. And I know that if there's something, emergency were to come up, there's people that have my back at work that would step in, and 100%, and a lot of them are other moms,
yeah,
amazing female partners, that are a mom, and she is always willing to help in and, help me out if I really need it. And I think just having those
yeah.
your corner, surrounding yourself with that kind of village or those, good people, again, is something that I don't take for granted, because I know a lot of people that don't have that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, though, you made it a win-win. Like I know, like I would have staff come to me and ask, for more flexibility, and I was always honest with the woman, because you try to coach also, and it's like yes, and how are we going to make it a win-win? Because some people approach it differently, right? And it makes everyone else look bad, where they're just going to do it and they're not thinking about the company either, right? But if you can find the win-win where you're going to, you're making your deadlines, you've got your home office set up, whatever, so you can plug back in, what, or if your child's sick, like it's just all about relationship, I think, between the company and the employee. So, you talked about that you had to step back from some things. And so, one common theme I've noticed with a lot of the women I've spoken to is you have a solid no. Like you are able to say no in the right moments. So talk to me a little bit about that, because not everyone has that. And where do you think that came from, and like how do you protect it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've had to learn that, though. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't feel like, 20, 25 years ago, right, or when I was growing up, I was as good at that. I think, or as good about saying no. I sort of almost felt like if I said no, I was letting people down, if that makes sense, or I was, not maybe meeting the standards that I had set for me, right? I didn't like to say no, but I think that as you grow in your career, as you grow as a mom, as you grow, just individually, And I think as your confidence grows, right, you realize the value that you bring, right? I mean, I do feel I bring value to my firm. I feel I bring value to my kids. I think they're both very important. And I think, as the commitments that you have build up, right, you sort of, I think your priorities shift a little bit, right? And I think that that's maybe what makes it a little bit easier to say no to things that maybe just aren't working for you at that point in your career. I also think that you can tell anybody how you feel as long as you do it in a nice way, right? I'm always telling my children, please feel free to be honest with your friends or your teachers, right, about how you feel, but you need to make sure you're doing it in a respectful way. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Because it's not just saying no to things, but I think it's really explaining why you're saying no, having that respect. But again, we can only do so much, right? Like as a woman, I only have so much time in a day. And so like here's where my priorities are right now. But 5 years from now, my guess is those priorities are going to shift a little bit, right? What I can take on can shift a little bit. And so again, I mean, I think, again, there was a couple organizations like I mentioned that it was right around the time I had my fourth, and had just had him, that I was very honest and said, listen, just with the commitments I have right now, I'm gonna have to step away. And what's funny is nobody was upset with me, right? I think at the end of the day, they all just really appreciated the time and effort I put in those organizations and realized I've got some different priorities right now. I've got a lot on my plate, and it just wasn't going to work at this time. But I think you never want to burn any bridges either when you say no to something. I think if you do it correctly, again, the organizations that I'm not maybe sitting on right now, I could easily go back and, ask to get involved or, join a committee or things like that. And I don't think there would be any issues with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is it's a tricky balance to make sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin and you're reassessing. I totally agree. Does your body give you a warning?
I mean, I think, yes, I would say it does. I feel sometimes like when I get very stressed, I almost feel like things are narrowing in around me. Does that make sense? Like I
Yep.
that feeling where, and I said this to my husband before, so I know this is the feeling I get back. I'm like, I kind of feel like things are closing in around me, right? Where you're kind of going down that narrow tunnel, and it is getting narrower and narrower, and then my mind goes, how am I ever going to get all of this done, right? But sometimes too, just talking it out. My husband's my go-to person to talk to a lot about if I feel a little bit of stress. And sometimes just kind of talking it out with him just makes me feel better, right? You realize, okay, it's not as bad or overwhelming as I think it is. I'm a note person. I mean, I have my hard copy checklist and notes right here. And so sometimes it's just kind of reevaluating that list, right? Or reorganizing it. But I like to talk things out. And I will say more often than not, whether it's, if I'm overwhelmed with something at work and I go to a partner and talk to them, or overwhelmed with something at home and I'm talking to my husband, I always feel better after I just talk it out. And I think like I've also, again, learned throughout my career that I'm not afraid to ask for help if I need it. That's something that I also wasn't good at, 25 years ago. But I don't think there's any shame in asking for help. People want to help you, right? I mean, I think people want to help people that help them. And, I have helped so many people in my career, right? So now if I go to them to ask for help, I've never met anyone that's not willing to help me out with that. And so I think you do need to be able to ask for help and not be ashamed of that if you feel like you've got a lot going on. And again, definitely utilize the people that are there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that talking it out is interesting. I love the walls start feeling like they're closing in a little bit, right? Because it's just the way your body's talking to you. Your body's giving you a heads up, like, gosh, I just, and I got to get the information on this one study, but there was a study done about the body and the mind, and it had to do with they had people play a card game. I think it was poker or something. And I'm just going to totally shorten it up. It was so much smarter than what I'm about to say. But the short story is they had the dealer start cheating. And they had electrodes on the people. And it took a while for the people's mind to figure out that something was wrong with cheating. The body started firing the signal like 2 or 3 hands before the mind got it. Like the body could tell that there was something wrong, somebody was cheating, right? And that whole body intelligence I find fascinating, right? Because sometimes when we're go, 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 and we're busy and we're focusing on all these other humans we have to keep alive and keep happy, right? Like, the body's watching out for us, and then there's also the saying, "The body's always keeping score," right? And I'm starting to get convinced that that's what, like, menopause is and perimenopause is when the body finally pulls the scorecard out and says, "Okay, let's talk." Like, there was a few things I was trying to tell you way back when, and you didn't listen. So I think it's awesome that you have, the walls closing in. Another woman said, she starts getting really impatient with, nonsense. She
Yeah.
realizes she just loses a little patience, right? And it's just because her nervous system is like, I need a break. Like we just kind of need to like pull back. And so when that starts happening, she tries to take a step back and find her center. So I think that's really cool. So talking it out, you got your walk. Are
Yeah.
there any, like, I know this is going to sound funny, but any go-to like healthy foods you have that is like a staple in your life that like keeps everything going?
Yeah, I got it's funny. I found these. So it's interesting. I'll back up. We just did a kind of a renovation of our downstairs. So from June 12th until about 2 weeks ago, we didn't have a kitchen, Elizabeth.
Oh,
Like,
oh,
imagine that with 4 kids throughout the whole summer. We had like a folding table in the basement. We had a sink that our contractors were fantastic, brought down. We had a microwave, we had a griddle and a grill. Like just so you want to imagine like how stressful that can get. I feel like I'm not feeding my children like healthy meals, right? We're running from game to game in the baseball. I mean, it was a good experiment, I guess you could say, of how you could get through it. But anyways, make a long story short, I've never really been much into like protein bars and things like that. And my kids, though, they were go go go, and I was so worried about them not having like enough for dinner. Right? They started tackle football. I was really concerned about this, so my husband and I started buying all different kinds of protein bars just so they could have a protein bar and like a fruit or something before practice to get them through and then come home and eat after. It just was working better for us. I can't tell you how many times the protein bars we tried. I actually didn't like most of them. My kids found a few, but the one that I found, have you ever heard of Go Macro bars?
no.
Okay, so I mean, this is it right here. Um,
Go macro.
yeah,
Okay.
macro. I actually first found them on Thrive, so that's something else I started doing. I will say, have you ever used Thrive to order
No.
food or snacks or anything? All right, so it's a subscription, like you pay an annual subscription. But the products get shipped to you really fast. You can do it on a monthly basis. You can do like Friday, I think I said, okay, I'm running low on something, and they'll have it there to you by usually like Sunday or Monday. It's really
Oh,
fast.
wow.
But they're known to be like very, kind of organic. I actually have celiac, so I'm gluten free. And so sometimes it can be a little bit more tough to find things that I really enjoy. But I'm at this point in my life, I don't know if you're the same. I'm not eating something if it doesn't taste good to me. Like I'm
Yes.
not, right? I don't like to eat to survive, if that makes sense. Like I want to eat because it really tastes good to me. So, anyways, I found they're called Go Macro. They have some kinds at Wegmans, but not the kind. My favorite kind is this white chocolate and macadamia nut. And, so kind of in trying to figure out what's healthy for my kids, right, with their schedule, I found these. And I'll tell you, I have one just about every day. It's kind of what I have for breakfast. Because again, we're so busy. I'm not going to sit and make this huge breakfast for myself. I'm just not. I'm not going to say that I do. I'm not going to say the healthiest eater that, you know what I mean, makes all these organic meals. Like, I'm just not that mom, right? I try,
Yeah.
but you can only do so much, right? I make sure my kids have their cereal, their oatmeal, their toast before they leave. Then it's like, well, what am I going to do? And so I
Right.
one of these now and I take it, and I will say they really, like, I really do notice a difference in kind of staying full, not being hungry until lunchtime with the protein. So that's something that I like. I've also started drinking like the yogurt protein drinks. I don't know if you've had
Mm.
either.
Oh, no.
Chobani has a good one. I just started drinking. It's like a collagen, like yogurt type of drink too. That sometimes I'll have in the morning. But no, I'm pretty simple when it comes to these things. It's like find something quick and easy that will work for me with the time constraints that I have. But yeah, this is definitely my go-to. I've been having them really probably since June. And I mean, I haven't gotten tired of them yet. So that's a good thing. So
That is a good thing, good
yeah,
thing. The one thing I underestimated was how often I was gonna be eating in a car, with the
oh my,
kid.
like
Like, my car used to be pristine, and now it's like it's ridiculous, right? And, but it is what it is because number 1, it keeps the kids calm, right? There's nothing worse than having a car full of hangry kids,
you
so
know,
that you gotta
I
get them something. It
I mean,
takes the edge off of you, right?
yeah, I'll tell them grab a snack. Right, they know in the pantry where all our snacks are. I'm like, grab a snack, get in the car. I can't tell you how many times I say that, but I am trying to train them to like take your snack wrapper out of the car with you. You know. But you're absolutely right. Like this is like the give or take, right? Like, would you love your car to be vacuumed and neat all the time? Yes, and that's how I am. Like, it doesn't bother me that it's not. Absolutely, but I think again, this is part of being a mom, right? Sometimes you just have to like figure out what are the important things, right? Is your car being
Yeah. Yeah.
as important as you getting your work done, your kids, you know what I mean, fed, healthy, clean, all those types of things, and it's just not.
Yeah.
It's sort of some give or take, and
Mhm.
you can't expect perfection in anything you do either. I think that that's another lesson I've had to learn. There's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
standards, but I think perfection is almost like this unreasonable standard with things.
Agreed. Agreed. You gotta let go of it's unhealthy. Perfectionism is unhealthy. You're still excellent. You're still fantastic. It's just you're not shooting for perfectionism. I have to say the one thing I had to unwind though when I got older is that eating in the car and eating on the run all the time, because eventually that does catch up with you with cortisol, where your body's just always kind of in like,
Sure.
go, go, go. And I
Right.
didn't realize that until my kids got a little bit older and I could start like I actually had to make a commitment, almost like a New Year's resolution to not eat in my car because it had become such a habit to give myself that little extra time in the morning or lunch or dinner or whatever. Because it's often very hard with kids. Like for me, I'm with you. It was not optional. I had 3 kids and I was just trying to eat something. And I'm not saying that's good or the best way to do it. But it is what it
I
is.
don't proclaim to be, you know what I mean, necessarily the healthiest eater, but I think something like this, at least I feel like I'm getting good ingredients. You know what I mean? I'm putting some
Yeah.
new body in the morning, and then it kind of holds me over until lunch, right? Until I have
Right.
or some time at work. So,
Yeah.
but and again, I think I'm guessing this will shift later in life as well, right? Again,
Exactly.
you're always, I don't know, it's just always evolving, is what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I think as a mom, sometimes you're lucky to even that the food's hot. It's like, "Oh my gosh," or a fresh potato chip. That was interesting to me because
Yeah,
I'm like,
you
I don't it's like,
know,
"Oh, this is what it tastes fresh when you first open the bag. What is going on?" Like
funny. Like it really, oh my gosh, it really is funny. Like you say, even just
right?
ready and having everything ready at the same time and like warming the table and you finally like corral everybody over, you know what I mean, to have dinner and stuff.
Yes.
So
Yes. It's
yeah.
hard. Okay, good. So to wrap it up, if you could give, advice to a woman that's coming up behind you, right? Because I know I've always tried to find women that were in the next phase or a few years ahead of me that I often ask best practices actually now that I think about it. I'm like, how did you do it? Or if you could look back, like what would you have done different? What would you say like for a young mom to and again, this is about you, not quite your career. This is about how advice on how to keep your fire going, your spark going in the middle of like all the chaos.
Sure. So okay, so like somebody who's just kind of entering that motherhood phase or
I think so, yeah.
I mean I think well, but I guess two things. I mean, I guess as far as I think you can have it all, right? And I think that oftentimes we're told, you can't have it all, you can't do it all type of thing. And I think you can. I just think you have to make sure you're in the right place, right? I think you have to make sure you're surrounded by the right people, definitely, to help you out. I mean, I think that it's challenging to do alone. I think you have to rely on other people. For me, I was very lucky that my parents, are nearby to help out, right? I think, they kind of say you have to have a village, and I think that's sort of this cliche phrase, right? But I do think you have to have people, surrounding you. And if it's not your parents, that's okay. Not everyone lives near their family. But find that group, right? So maybe it's other moms, maybe you join. There's a lot of groups even on, Facebook, or, in your towns where there's these mom groups where you can get together, right, with your children and have them play together. Even just you get together and they're playing, it gives you a little bit of that break and interaction to talk with other adults, right? I mean, I remember when I was on my first maternity leave, the thing I missed the most was just that other adult interaction. I was home by myself with a baby all day, right? And it was like my husband would come home and I'd just be ready to talk his ear up because I felt like I didn't have anybody to talk to during the day, right? So I think really finding that network, that village, those people that you can, call for to help. Because again, as the kids get older and you need some time or you need to be able to do something for yourself, it is nice to have those people that can help out to watch your kids, here and there, or again, run them to different sports or activities and things like that, because you definitely can't do it all. But I think you can have it all, right? Which means you can, be able to have that, be a mom and have a career at the same time. But again, like I said, you're gonna have to find that right company or that right firm that's a good fit for you, that allows you the flexibility and that prioritizes family, right? Prioritizes that work-life balance that not all companies are going to. You definitely have to find a good fit for that in order, to be able to do both and to do both successfully, for sure. One of the
Yeah.
things I guess just kind of add is I think like being a new mom, for me anyways, was probably the most challenging point in my life ever, was having that first child. It got easier for me as I had her second, third, and fourth, just 'cause I think I knew what to expect. But your life changes so dramatically with that first one, where all of a sudden you can't just go and do whatever you want when you want it, right? You have this other human being that's relying on you. And so I always tell people, in these situations, like, don't worry, like, I promise you it will get easier, right? You'll sort of get back into that almost like new normal, but where you are getting some sleep, right? You are able to take a shower without bringing that baby into the bathroom, to sit in a little bassinet near you. I mean, it definitely does get easier, but when you're in that moment of being a new mom, it doesn't always feel like it's going to get easier. That's for sure. At least it didn't for me. I mean, I remember it was very tough. But you do get through it. You do kind of get used to it. You kind of create a new schedule and a new normal, and it's amazing. You'd never change it, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. It definitely doesn't mean that it's easy,
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent.
for sure.
Before we close, I want to sincerely thank you for sharing your time and perspective with us today. These conversations really matter, and I'm grateful for your openness. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Powerful Women Off the Record with Elizabeth Veely. If today's episode resonated, please share it with a woman who needs to hear it. And if it feels aligned, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. Until then, stay sovereign.